Did you know the average adult attempts 126 diets in her lifetime, yet still struggles with her weight? That's because lasting weight loss has nothing to do with extreme diets and everything to do with daily habits that create a sustainable lifestyle. So in this video, I'll share 17 small but powerful habits that help me lose 50 pounds without starving myself or spending hours in the gym. But how did I finally break free from decades of dieting while easily maintaining my results with a lifestyle that feels effortless? If you want real, lasting results, you have to block out all of that diet noise like low carb, low fat, and low calorie, since none of that matters as much as getting your priorities straight. Even though most diets force you to cut out everything you love, I didn't find lasting success until I shifted my focus to adding more of one thing. Now, every time I eat, the first question I ask is, where's my protein? Once I made protein the star of every meal, fat loss got easier since it keeps you fuller longer. It also helps you maintain muscle while losing fat, and eating more protein naturally controls cravings. These days, I build every meal around lean meats like chicken, turkey, and beef, or even high-protein non-meat options like Greek yogurt, cheese, and eggs. This strategy keeps me fuller longer on less calories, which is what's necessary to maintain the moderate deficit that triggered my 50-pound fat loss. So instead of cutting out everything you love, start asking, where's my protein? Every time you eat. This is one small habit that'll make a huge difference in your progress. But filling up on protein during the day is only half the battle. While I do eat more of what I want as long as I stay on track with my protein target, I found it much easier to stick to my calorie goal whenever I skipped sugary treats throughout the day. I used to grab a few squares of chocolate after lunch or enjoy protein pancakes for breakfast, thinking that I could make it fit. But I soon realized that eating any sugar before filling up on whole food protein only led to cravings for the rest of the day. Once I began saving sweet treats for dessert, I was able to enjoy them guilt-free while easily sticking to my calorie goals. Since I'm eating some of my favorite foods, I never feel deprived, but saving them until the end of the day keeps cravings under control. If you struggle with cravings, focus on eating more high-protein foods throughout the day. If you do want a treat, save it until after dinner to make it easier to stay on track with your calorie goals, which even tracking calories in the first place is something that a lot of people call obsessive. But you want to know what's actually obsessive? Cutting out every carb, only eating meat, or forcing yourself to fast for 20 plus hours a day. For years, I tried all of the extreme diets only to end up frustrated, sick, and exhausted, which led to me regaining every pound I worked so hard to lose. Then I realized I never needed to cut out entire food groups. I just needed balance. Once I began tracking my meals, I got to eat everything I love while leaning out with a habit that takes less than 10 minutes a day. So if tracking helps you lose weight while eating foods you love, that doesn't sound obsessive. It sounds smart. Speaking of obsessive, I used to spend hours doing cardio thinking that was the key to fat loss. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. While cardio is great for overall health, it's overhyped for burning fat. Once I shifted my focus to building muscle instead of burning calories, that's when my body really changed. And here's the thing, you don't need to spend hours in the gym to build lean muscle. Even just taking 15 minutes a day to do 1 or 2 exercises is enough to boost your metabolism and get results. So instead of wasting another hour on the treadmill, add 15 minutes of strength training instead. Even though this approach will take a little longer to see results, this is a tiny habit that compounds over time to help you grow your health investment instead of one that only leads to diminishing returns. But that doesn't mean I spend 15 minutes lifting and then turn into a potato for the rest of the day. While strength training is great, staying active throughout the day is just as important. When I began tracking steps a few years ago, I realized that I was only getting 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day. Even though I thought I was active since I worked out daily, I learned that I was still considered sedentary. This motivated me to get my step count up to 10,000 per day. But I didn't do it overnight. Instead, I started with a 10-minute walk each day. Then I began adding short walks after meals while also becoming more mindful of more movement throughout the day. These days, I hit my step goal without even thinking about it. But I get it. Going from sedentary to 10,000 steps a day seems overwhelming. But if you start by adding just one 10-minute walk, that instantly adds 1,000 steps to your daily count. Then find ways to add an additional 10 minutes of activity each week until being more active just becomes part of your life. But even though increasing activity is a must when it comes to achieving your goals, what you eat still accounts for up to 90% of your results. The hard way after falling into the diet food trap for decades. I'd always stock up on low-calorie, processed diet foods, me hungry an hour later. Now that I eat mostly real whole foods like lean proteins, fruits and veggies, and even more whole grains, my portion sizes are bigger, even though I'm eating less calories. And this simple swap helps me stay fuller for longer. If you still rely on food marketers to tell you which foods fit into your diet, ditch these highly processed diet-friendly foods for more real food instead. Making this one change is the easiest way to control hunger to make it easier to stick to your macro targets. Even though this next tiny tweak sounds too simple to work, science backs it up. Studies show that eating protein first can reduce glucose spikes by up to 37%. This is a big deal since this helps slow digestion and prevent energy crashes. It also controls cravings while reducing overeating, and this simple swap keeps you fuller for longer. Once I started eating protein before moving on to carbs like rice or potatoes, I felt fuller on less calories while experiencing fewer cravings later that day. Next time you eat, try starting your meals with protein before moving on to carbs and see if it makes a difference. Even with protein-packed meals, cravings still happen. But grabbing whatever's available is a quick way to derail your progress. That's why I always keep high-protein snacks on hand, like Greek yogurt, beef jerky, rolled up deli meat, and cheese sticks. Make this easy for yourself by stocking up on grab-and-go protein snacks so you're never caught hungry and unprepared. Which means it's also a good idea to establish this next tiny habit. The old "I'm always on a diet" me never had a plan, so I grabbed whatever seemed like a healthy choice in the moment. The truth is, it usually wasn't healthy. Since I still don't love spending hours each week prepping my food, I've come up with my own lazy meal prep hack where I double my dinner recipe. Whenever I cook taco meat, I make extra for tostados, nachos, taco salads, or even a Mexican pizza for lunch later that week. If I'm grilling chicken, I make extra for lunch wraps or a high-protein breakfast scramble. Even though doubling dinner takes no extra effort, it makes sticking to your goals 10 times easier. Another benefit to cooking less often meant less back pain, which held me back for years. Because after spending most mornings getting more active, by mid-afternoon, I was done, spending way too much time on sedentary activities like scrolling my phone. But once I discovered the right stretches that instantly took away my pain, everything changed. Now I start every morning with 15 minutes of stretching and a quick mobility session anytime I feel tight. Even just 5 minutes of stretching makes me feel like a new person, helping me remain active all day. If pain is slowing you down, commit to a few minutes of daily stretching. This makes it easier to achieve your goals since being too sedentary will slow down your results. Something else I did way too much while working through the pain was order dinner out, which caused my scale to jump all over the place, making me feel like I wasn't making progress, especially since the old me always ordered whatever I craved. While I still eat out a few times each week, now I make smarter choices. I start by prioritizing meals packed with protein and veggies like fajitas or a grilled chicken salad. While I still enjoy carbs, I save them for the end of my meal. That way, I only have a few bites of rice or a handful of chips instead of eating the entire basket. And I always stop halfway through my meal to check how I feel, so I never end up eating until it's too late and I'm stuffed. If you eat out on your diet, do your best to fill up on protein before indulging in extras, which will help you enjoy the meal without sabotaging your progress. Following this next tiny habit raised my energy while making it easier to stick to a calorie deficit. Because before starting this habit, there were many times that I thought I was hungry, but I was actually just dehydrated. To avoid false hunger cues, I keep a bottle of cold water next to me all day. I also add electrolytes before, during, and after activity, since electrolytes play a big role in hydration. Always keeping water nearby reminds me to sip regularly instead of waiting until I'm thirsty, and as well to avoid drinking too much with meals, which isn't a good idea since drinking too much while eating can wash away digestive enzymes that help break down food. So while it is important to hydrate throughout the day, remember to only sip lightly during meals for better digestion and fewer cravings. Since keeping this bottle next to me reminds me to drink, that's one fat loss habit I never have to track. When it comes to other important metrics that help me achieve my goal, that's another story. I never leave the habits that actually move the needle to chance, since you can't measure what you don't track. And if you don't have an accurate way to measure your results, how will you know if your plan's even working? That's the reason I always track calories, protein, daily activity, and my weekly weight trends whenever I'm in a fat loss phase. Taking 5 minutes to track these simple metrics is what helped me lose 50 pounds. And I still use this simple system daily since it's what helps me maintain my weight. If you're not in the habit of tracking, then pick 3 key habits that impact your fat loss the most and track them daily. You'll be surprised at how much consistency improves when you pay close attention to what really matters. Keeping this goal tracker also helps with this next habit, which is focusing on how far I've come instead of dwelling on how much further I have to go. Let's be real. There will be plenty of times that you'll feel stuck, but seeing just how far I've come whenever I feel frustrated motivates me to keep going. Taking 5 minutes to log today's data allows me to look back at months or even years of progress in just a few minutes. I can instantly see how many inches I've lost, how much stronger I've gotten, and how quickly even those half-pound weekly losses add up to real progress. I even have a progress photo tab to see how all of these numbers translate into real results. Even if you haven't started a goal tracker of your own, take time now to write down 3 small wins you've had over the past month. This will instantly motivate you since you're probably making more progress than you think. My goal tracker has also been a game changer since it taught me that sustainable fat loss isn't about being perfect. It's about being patient. Like most dieters, I used to obsess over big weight drops. Whenever my scale didn't drop at least 2 pounds in a week, I thought that I was doing something wrong. But that mindset kept me stuck. Once I realized that losing even half a pound a week still adds up over time, that's when everything changed. That's when I finally figured out that small, steady losses are what actually leads to lasting results. This helped me realize that even imperfect progress is progress, and sustainable habits always work better than diet extremes. So instead of searching for another diet that's too strict to follow, focus on staying consistent with the right habits and your results will come. But also be aware that sometimes being too consistent can even be a bad thing, which is something that I had to learn the hard way. For months, I thought that working out more meant faster results. Reality hit once my energy dropped, my progress stalled, and I suffered an injury that almost kept me out of the gym for months. While I still train hard, I also rest hard because I finally learned that rest and recovery is just as important for building muscle as your actual workout. So no matter how motivated you are, remember that rest days aren't lazy, they're necessary. If it feels like you train hard but you're not making much progress, chances are you're doing too much. Believe it or not, you'll get better results when you include more active recovery days. I know I did. The final tiny habit I followed just might be the most important of all. The girl you see here, who constantly struggled with her weight, was always starting over with some new diet that was guaranteed to work. It wasn't until I removed the phrase, "I'll just start Monday," from my vocabulary that I finally got permanent results. That's when I realized that one bad meal doesn't ruin all of my hard work, since it's actually all of the decisions I make after that meal that determine my results. If I go off track now, I just jump right back into my routine. There's no more guilt and no drama. I just make the next right choice. When you shift from an all or nothing mindset to just making the next right choice after veering off course, that's when you finally get lasting results. While each habit alone is small, together they build a lifestyle that makes weight loss effortless. If you're ready for the full system I use to lose 50 pounds, watch this video next. I break down the exact routine I follow to make weight loss simple, sustainable, and easy to maintain, taking you through every step of the system I use.